An excerpt from Book 14 of the Horus Heresy, The First Heretic. Chapter 4. A Legion Kneels If Ultramar Burns. Grey. Sight returned, banishing the grotesque feeling of helplessness. Such emotion was anathema, prickling at Argyltal's skin with 1,000 insect legs. He managed to look through his dimmed visor, seeing a towering figure deep in a corona of agonizing white light. Around the figure, cloaked and gold-armored warriors hefted unique spears which with practiced ease. Each one was the size of an Astartes, and no Astartes could fail to recognize them. Custodes, he managed to speak through teeth gritted at the light's intensity. It's, Zaffin stammered. It's the... I know who it is. I know who it is. Argyltal exhaled the words through clenched teeth. And that's when the voice hit him. Hit them all in a wave of invisible force. Kneel, it whispered with the power of a hammer to the forehead. There was no resisting. Muscles acted instantly, no matter that many hearts fought not to obey. Argyltal was one of them. This was not fealty, nor worship, nor service. This was slavery. And his instincts rebelled at the enforced devotion even as he obeyed it. 100,000 word-bearers kneeled in the dust of the perfect city, rendered prone by imperial decree, a legion on its knees. I do apologize for the slip-ups in my words, but it shouldn't detract from the experience. Lorgar looked over his shoulder, taking in the seascape of his kneeling warriors. Fire flickered in his eyes when he returned his gaze to the Emperor. Father, Lorgar began, but the man shook his head. Kneel, he said. His timeless face was framed by dark hair, the same color as Lorgar's facial stubble, like father, like son. What? The Primarch asked. He looked past the Emperor to Guilliman, straight-backed and proud. When he returned his gaze to his father, he wiped his eyes with his soft fingertips, as if to clear some lingering phantasm. Father? Kneel, Lorgar. Argyltal watched with clenched teeth as Lorgar lowered himself to one knee. His first instincts were fading now, replaced by reason and the comfort of faith. It was only right to kneel before the God Emperor. He willed his hearts to slow, despite the implied insult of his deity impelling him to abase himself. The rebellious anger resurfaced in a stinging adrenal flood only a moment later, as he watched the Ultramarines rise to their feet at Guilliman's command. He could see them watching, feel their eyes boring into him as he knelt before them. One Legion's warrior stood in the Emperor's presence with the Primarch's blessing, while another was on its knees in the bones of a dead city. It was a moment that cast a dozen reflections, for the word-bearers had mirrored this action many times before under alien skies. Legions laying claim to less discipline or grace might beat their chests and howl at the moon upon achieving compliance. But among the sons of Lorgar, victory was to be cherished in reverence and dignity. The triumphant warriors would kneel in the heart of the fallen city and heed the words of chaplains. The rite of remembrance, a time to recall the sacrifices of lost brothers and reflect upon one's place in the world. Argyltal felt sweat painting cold trails down his temples and cheeks. Trembling threatened to take hold as his traitorous muscles bunched, locking in painful cramps. The joints of his armor thrummed with unreleased strength, forcing him to endure this perversion of the Legion's most sacred ritual. The voice returned. This time it gave answers that the 17th Legion so craved. Lorgar looked into his father's unknowable face as the Emperor spoke. You are a general, my son, not a high priest. You were created for war, for conquest, to reunite the human race under the aegis of truth. I know. The Emperor closed his eyes, and an image of Monarchia as it been, bright and glorious, filled Lorgar's mind. This is worship, the Emperor said. This is a poison to truth. You speak of me as a god, and forge of worlds that suffer under the one lie that has brought humanity to the edge of extinction time and time again. The people are joyous, the people are deceived, the people will burn when their faith is proven false. My worlds are loyal. Lorgar was no longer kneeling. He rose to his feet, his voice rising with him. My legion shapes the most fiercely loyal worlds in your Imperium. It is not my Imperium. The words thudded into Argaltal's mind like a stream of bolter shells. For a brief hateful moment, he glanced at his retinal display to check his life signs. He was certain he was dying. And had he not already been on his knees, he would have fallen to them now. It is the Imperium of man, the empire of humanity enlightened and saved by the truth. He heard Lorgar's reply this time. I speak no lies. You are a god, Lorgar. I will not be silenced because you do not like the melody of one single word. In your grip 1,000 worlds turn. By your will 1,000,000 vessels sail the void. You are immortal, undying, seeing all and knowing all that transpires across creation. Father, you are a god in all but name. All that remains is to confess to it. Lorgar! The voice came with a wall of pressure now, dense and all too tactile. It pounded into Argaltal like a miasma of engine wash, heating his armor and throwing him to the ground. Around him he could see his brothers sent sprawling, their armor skidding across the dust. Defiant in the cyclone of unseen energy, scrolls of scripture ripping from his armor, Lorgar raised his hand to point at his father. You are a god. Say the words and end the lie. The Emperor shook his head, not in defeat but calm defiance. You are blind, my son. You cling to ancient perceptions and endanger us all with them. Let this end, Lorgar. Let this end with you heeding my words. The psychic wind died with a peal of thunder. Lorgar stood where he was, trembling for reasons his warriors couldn't discern. Blood ran from one ear, running in a slow trail down his tattooed neck. I am listening, father, he said. The 7th captain hauled himself back to his feet, stumbling once and righting himself before his armor stabilizers needed to compensate. He was one of the first wordbearers to rise. The others still struggled, shivering on hands and knees, or were locked in muscle spasms, their twitching limbs disturbing the dust. Argaltal helped Zafin up, receiving a grunt of thanks. Word-bearers, hear me well. You, among all my legions, are guilty of failure. You number more warriors than any other, excepting the 13th. Yet your conquests are the slowest, and your victories ring hollow. It hurt too much to look directly at the figure of white gold light, haloed by coruscating psychic fire, telling them with words of thunder that all their lives have been wasted. You linger on compliant worlds for years after final victory, driving the populace into the worship of false faith, seeding cults of the naive and the deceived, erecting monuments to lies. All you have done in the Great Crusade is for naught. While all others succeed and bring prosperity to the Imperium, you alone have failed me. Lorgar stepped back from the figure, only now raising his arms to ward off its radiance. Wage war as you were created to do. Serve the Imperium as you were born to do. Take with you the lesson learned here this day. You kneel in the ruined nation found at the end of a false path. Let this be your legion's rebirth. The Primarch managed the weak, Father, but it was spoken to emptiness. Another sonic boom of displacing air heralded the Emperor's return to orbit. The Ultramarines remained, watching the kneeling, trembling word-bearers in absolute silence. The custodians stood alongside Gilliman, while the Primarch conferred with their apparent leader, whose helm bore a red crest to match his cloak. Argyle saw Corferan rising with painful slowness, despite his Terminator armor making the task easier with dense joints of snarling servos. Neither Argyle nor Zafin offered to help. Both of them made for the Primarch. While the word-bearers struggled to their feet, Lorgar crashed to his knees at last. The Emperor's golden sun stared at the surrounding city as if he recognized none of it, with no idea how he had reached this place. Dead eyes, too cold to cry, looked out upon his shamed legion, and the rebel of the lesson they needed to learn. Argyle reached him first. Instinct compelled him to remove his own helm, and he disengaged the seals in his armored collar. Standing unmasked before his Primarch, Aurelian, he said. For the first time, Argyle breathed the scorched air of Monarchia, unaltered by merciful filters. It reeked of the oil burned in 1,000 years of industry. Zafin's earlier comment was a haunting in its truth. It smelled like they'd lost the war. He didn't dare touch Lorgar, with his hand outstretched, just short of resting on his Primarch's shoulder. He whispered his father's name. Lorgar turned to regard him, his eyes lacking even a shadow of recognition. Aurelian, Argyle said again. He glanced at the staring figures of Gilliman and the custodians. My Primarch, come, we must return to our ships. For the first time, his hand rested on Lorgar's armored shoulder, where a scroll of scripture had once hung. Ignoring his touch, Lorgar threw his head back and roared. The captain gripped the Primarch's golden pauldron, doing all he could to keep the demigod steady. Lorgar screamed, deep and low and long, at the uncaring sky. It lasted longer than mortal lungs would allow. When the anguished cry finally faltered, he ran his bare fingers along the broken ground. With a shaking hand, the Primarch smeared black ash across his face, tarnishing his features with the powdered bones of the perfect city. Zafin's voice was low and urgent. The Ultramarines are bearing witness to this. We must get him to safety. Lorgar's mask of ashes was already streaked with tears that cut trails in the dust. The two warriors renewed their grips, trying to bring the golden giant to his feet. For a wonder, instead of the experienced slackness in his limbs, Lorgar spat into the ground and rose with their aid. Both of them felt the trembling in Lorgar's limbs. Neither of them spoke of it. Gilliman. The Primarch spoke his brother's name with an envenomed tongue, and a shrug of his shoulders pushed Argyle and Zafin aside, immediately forgotten. Emotion flooded back into Lorgar's eyes. His gaze was locked on Gilliman, who returned it, passionless where Lorgar was inflamed. Does it please you, the word-bearer lord sneered, to witness my shame? Gilliman didn't answer, but Lorgar wouldn't back down. Does it please you? He pressed. Do you enjoy seeing my efforts reduced to ashes while our father favors you? Gilliman breathed slowly, utterly unfazed. He spoke as if no question had been asked. Our father entrusted me to inform you of one last matter. Then speak it and be gone. Lorgar reached for his croziers on the ground and dragged it up from the ash. Dust rained from its spiked head. These 5 warriors of the Legionis Custodes, the Ultramarines Primarch inclined his head to them. They are not alone. 15 more remain on my flagship. Our father has ordered them to accompany you, brother. Argyle closed his eyes at this final indignity. After kneeling in the ashes of failure, after being told by the Emperor that all their achievements were worthless, now this. Lorgar laughed, the sound ripe with derision. His face was still smeared with dust. I refuse. They are not needed. Our father believes otherwise, Gilliman said. These warriors are to be his eyes as your legion rejoins the great crusade. And does our father set hounds to watch over you? Do they reside in your precious empire of Ultramar, whispering of your every move? I see the shadow of a smile on your lips. These others do not know you as I do, brother. Our sons may not see the amusement in your eyes, but I am not blind to such nuance. You have always possessed an active imagination. Today has proven that. My devotion is my strength. Lorgar clenched his perfect teeth. You have no heart and no soul. A snort blackened his angelic features with a disgusted twist. I pray that one day you feel as I feel. Would you smile if one of Ultramar's worlds died in fire? Tarentus? Espando? Calth? You should return to your fleet, brother. Gilliman uncrossed his arms, revealing the golden aquila emblazoned across his chest. The eagle's spread wings glinted with reflected sunlight. You have much work to do. The blow came from nowhere. In its wake, the air rang with the echo of metal on metal. The clashing chime of great cathedral bell. It was almost beautiful. A Primarch lay in the dust, surrounded by his warriors. None present had ever witnessed such a thing. Agaltal's bolter was raised, aimed at the ranks of Ultramarines who mirrored the gesture in kind. 100 gun barrels leveled at 100,000. The seventh captain needed 3 attempts to form words. Hold your fire, he whispered into the General Vox channel. Do not fire unless fired upon. Lorgar rested the immense crozier's mace on his golden shoulder. His eyes flickered with uncertain emotion as he bared his teeth at the fallen Lord of Macragge. You will never mock me again, brother. Is that understood? Gilliman's rise was slow, almost hesitant. The golden eagle on his breastplate was split, a valley crack running through its body. You go too far, a softer voice said. Malcador, First Lord of Terror, still clutched his staff. It was all that kept him standing. You go too far. Be silent, worm. The next time you bleed my patience dry, I will do more than slap you aside. Gilliman was on his feet now. He turned an expressionless face back to his brother. Is your tantrum concluded, Lorgar? I must return to the crusade. Come, my son. Corferan's corpse sneer was directed at Gilliman, even as his words were meant for his Primarch. Come, we have much to discuss. Lorgar exhaled and nodded once. The anger was fading and no longer offered a shield against shame. Yes, back to the ships. All companies, Corferan spat across the Vox. Return to orbit. Yes, First Captain, Agaltal replied with the others. By your word. Agaltal's Thunderhawk nestled in the shadow cast by a ruined wall. This blasted slice of architecture stood almost alone in the ash desert, the last lingering piece of a building that would never rise again. The captain walked with Zafin and his sub-commanders, Brother Sergeants Malno and Torgal. The squads embarked aboard their own gunships, despondent gatherings of warriors walking in near silence. There will be no resettlement, Torgal said. The city is a tomb. There is nothing left to rebuild. It is noted in many historical archives, said Zafin, that even the most enlightened primitive cultures on pre-Imperial Terra would salt the earth after razing a city to the ground. Nothing would grow for generations. The people of the defeated city had no choice but to leave and begin new lives elsewhere, rather than rebuild. How fascinating, said Malnor. Be quiet, Torgal grunted. Please continue, Chaplain. I'm sure none of us are blind to the echoes of those ancient events taking place here. How many orbital bombardments have we prosecuted ourselves? How many times have we battled in the ruins of a sky-blasted city? This was more than simple destruction. This was eradication. The Ultramarines did as they were meant to do, and wiped every significant remnant of Curse culture from the face of the planet. A lesson for us, and a lesson for the people. Agaltal led the group into the Thunderhawk's open cargo bay. Their boots clanged at the ramp. I had my bolter aimed at one of the 13th Legion, he said at last, aimed at his throat. He tapped the softer fiber bundle cabling his own armor's flexible layered collar. If I'd pulled the trigger, he would be dead. You didn't pull the trigger, Torgal said. None of us did. That's what matters. Agaltal nodded to a squad of 7th Company as they moved past, and punched the sealant plate, activating the ramp's pistons. The hydraulics compacted, which lifted the gangway back up in a slow machine grind. I didn't, the captain said, but I wanted to. After what they did to our city, after they saw us kneel in false shame, I wanted to, and I almost did. I gave the order to hold fire, while silently hoping someone would break it. Malnor didn't move. Zaffin said nothing. After several seconds, Torgal offered an unsure, "Sir?" Agaltal stared through the diminishing slit of daylight allowed by the rising ramp. Without a word, he thudded a fist onto the control plate, holding the seal. The captain moved to the gang ramp as it made its shuddering descent again. "Sir?" Torgal tried again. "I saw something. Movement in the distance, at the edge of the northern craters." His visor zoomed and refocused, panning across the uneven horizon. Nothing. Less than nothing. "Dust and dead rock," said Malnor. "I will return shortly." Agaltal was already moving back down the ramp. He didn't reach for the bolter at his hip or the twin blade sheathed on his back. "Captain," Zaffin said, "we were ordered to return to orbit. Is this necessary?" "Yes. Someone is alive out there." The stranger staggered over the broken ground. When her foot caught on a jutting hump of rock, she tumbled forward without a sound, crashing down hard. There she remained, prone in the ash, breathing in arithmetic wheezes as she sought to summon the strength to stand again. Judging by the bleeding sores on her palms and knees, it was a performance she'd repeated many times, over many days. Her scarlet robes were filthy and shredded, though they were clearly of inexpensive weave even before they'd suffered the indignity of neglect. Agaltal watched her from afar as the lurching figure made her painful way across the blasted terrain. She seemed to have no specific direction in mind, often turning back on herself and pausing to crouch and catch her breath after each stumble. The Astartes moved closer. The stranger's head came up immediately. "Who's there?" she called. Agaltal's helm turned his answer into a machine growl, with a whiplash, sawing edge. Who indeed? The captain kept his gauntleted hands in full view, palms outward in the Korean custom of greeting another without hostility. The young woman looked in his direction but made no eye contact. She stared vaguely off to Agaltal's side. You're one of them," the human recoiled, her feet betraying her on the uneven rock and sending her down to the dust again. She was younger than Agaltal had first guessed, but the warrior was poor at estimating human age, 18. Perhaps younger, certainly no older. "I am Captain Agaltal of the 17th Assault Company, Serrated Sun Chapter, 17th of the Legio Astartes." 17th? You are not a false angel." "I came to this world 6 decades ago," the captain said. "I was not false then, nor am I now." You are not a false angel," the girl said again. She was clearly hesitant, still not looking directly at the Astartes as she rose on shivering legs. Agaltal took a step closer, offering his hand. The young woman didn't take it. She didn't even acknowledge it. The warrior's eye lens displays flickered with crude bio-assign analyses that Agaltal had no need to see. The female's condition was obvious from her jutting facial bones, the patches of raw, discolored skin decorating her body, and her limbs shaking in a manner that had nothing to do with her. "You are on the edge of malnutrition," said the captain, "and the wounds on your hands are grievously infected." This last was an understatement, given the spread of flesh corruption below the knees. It was a miracle the girl could still walk at all. Amputation was a very real possibility. What is your armor, Angel?" she asked. Answer me this question, I beg you. The word-bearer withdrew his offered hand. And you are blind, the warrior said. Forgive me for not noticing before. I saw the city die, she said. I saw it burning as flame rained from the stars. The sky fire stole my eyes on the day of judgment. It is called flash blindness. Your retinas are bleached by an oversaturation of light. Sight may return in time. The young woman let out a panicked yell as Argaltal rested his gauntleted fingers on her skeletal shoulder. She flinched back, but the Astartes kept her standing, not allowing her to fall. Please, don't kill me. I will not kill you. I am guiding you to safety. We saved this world 60 years ago. Curian. We never meant to bring this upon you. What is your name? Cyrene. But what color is your armor, Angel? You never answered me. Argaltal looked down into her blinded eyes. Please, tell me, she repeated. Grey. The girl burst into tears and allowed herself to be half carried back to the shelter of the word-bearer's gunship. Chapter end. And now, an intermission. Chapter 5. The Old Ways, the Soul's Fuel, New Eyes. With that fierce breed of arrogance found only in the hearts of the truly ignorant, it was called the Last War. The Last War, the conflict to end all conflict. I remember it, Corferin murmured. I remember every day and night we fought, while around us colchis burned. 6 years. Lorgar's smile was rueful, his eyes cast down to the marble floor of his meditation chamber. 6 long, long years of civil war, an entire world torn asunder in the name of faith. Corferin licked his sharpened incisors. The chamber was lit only by candlelight, and the cloying reek of ashy incense was thick in the air. But we won, he said. Seated opposite the Primarch, Corferin wore the grey robe of Colchis' ruling priest caste. Without his Terminator plate, he was as Lorgar had always known him, an aging man, despite physical enhancement surgery, skeletal of form, fierce of eye. Also, I just realized I probably should have included the intermission discussion that we just had in the recording as well, because now for anybody watching this on YouTube, it's just gonna be and now an intermission. Chapter 5. Oh yeah, not necessarily. Why not necessarily? Oh yeah, you can even just put in some elevator waiting. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I could put that in the edit. I actually might include this in with the Boltgun stream as well. But let's see. Lorgar wore nothing but a loincloth of coarse weave, leaving his immense but androgynously slender torso bare. Ritual branding marks, shaped like colchis and runes, bled freely down his back, while older burn scars had scabbed over with crusty seals. Fresh wheals from the lash striped his shoulders, the overlapping wounds forming a cobweb of self-flagellation. Erebus sat with his Primarch and commander on the floor, wearing the black robe of the Legion's chaplains. It was difficult to breathe with Lorgar's blood in the air. Such a potent, salty scent was almost dizzying. Primarchs did not receive wounds in war. It was a genetic blasphemy for one to bleed. Yes, Lorgar said, scratching the stubble marking his jawline. We won. We won, and we spread our faith across our homeworld. He moistened his golden lips with a bitten tongue. And look where we find ourselves in the wake of that triumph. A century later, we are the lords of nothing, kings of the only legion ever to fail my father. You have always taught us, sire. Speak, Erebus. You always taught us to speak the truth, even if our voices shake. Lorgar raised his head, a smile creasing the corners of his split lips as he met the chaplain's solemn eyes. And have we done that? There was no hesitation. The Emperor is a god, said Erebus. We've taken the truth to the stars and seeded it across the Imperium. We should feel no shame for how we acted. You should feel no shame for it, sire. The Primarch wiped the back his hand across his forehead. Whoa. The Primarch wiped the back of his hand across his forehead, brushing aside a streak of ash to reveal the gold beneath. Since leaving Kurl less than a week before, Lorgar smeared dust from Monarchia's surface over his features with each new day. His coal-ringed eyes were darkened further by exhaustion and narrowed by the burden of shame. But the single gesture was the closest either warrior had seen to their Primarch, cleaning himself since his humiliation before the Emperor. It all began on Colchis, he said, and we have been in error since then. My visions of the Emperor's arrival, the battles of the last war, it all began with the belief that divinity deserved worship purely because it was divine. He laughed without humor. Even now, I ache to think of the faith we destroyed to make room for our beliefs. Sire, Erebus leaned closer, his eyes rapt upon his Primarchs. We stand on the precipice of destruction, the Legion. Its faith is shattered. The chaplains remain stoic, but they are beset by warriors who come to them with doubts. And with you lost to us, with no guiding light, those who carry the croziers have no answers to give those in grey. Lorgar blinked, flecks of ash from his eyelashes dusting down to his lap. I have no answers to offer the chaplains, he said. Perhaps that is so, allowed Erebus, but you are still too mired in regret. Draw inspiration from the past. Use it to shape the future. Do not let it strangle you with shame. Lorgar snorted, though there was no malice in the sound. You quote my own writings to me, Erebus. They hold true, said the chaplain. You dwell on the thoughts of Colchis. Corferan's eyes glinted with reflected candlelight. To Erebus, he looked desperate on some subtle secret level. A kind of insatiable, unfeedable hunger brightened the elder's eyes, eating at him from within. Most undignified. If there is something you wish to speak of, my son. Corferan's thin hand fell upon Lorgar's golden whip-scarred shoulder. Then speak of it. The Primarch looked to his oldest ally, with the cadaverous stare that forever lingered on the man's face. Yet Lorgar saw beyond it, in a way few others ever could. Seeing the kindness, the care, the paternal love for an aggrieved son. Lorgar smiled with genuine warmth for the first time in 3 days, and rested his tattooed hand over his foster father's weaker, 2 human fingers. Do you remember our Emperor's arrival? The exultation in our hearts that we were proved right. Do you recall the savage vindication after years of righteous war? The older man nodded. I do. I just realized I mixed up the voices there. The young man with the golden skin drops to one knee, silver tears sparkling on his flawless features like droplets of sacred oil. I knew you'd come, he weeps the words. I knew you'd come. The god in gold offers his armored hand to the kneeling young man. I am the Emperor, he smiles, benevolence incarnate, glory radiating from him in a palpable aura that hurts the eyes of every onlooker. Thousands of people line the streets. Hundreds of priests, clad in the dove grey of the Covenant's ecclesiarchs, kneel with Lorgar before coming of the God Emperor. I know who you are, the Golden Primarch says through his dignified tears. I have dreamed of you for years. foreseeing this moment, Father. Father, Emperor, my lord, we are the Covenant of Colchis, and we have won this world through your worship for the glory of your name. Lorgar turned to meet Corferan's eyes. That morning, as I knelt before the Emperor, with the homeworld's holy caste chanting, with the red rock domes of Bahradesh made amber by the rising dawn, did you see as I saw? Corferan looked away. You will not like the answer, Lorgar. I have liked nothing of late, yet I still wish to know. He laughed suddenly, softly. Speak the truth, even if your voice shakes. I saw a god in golden armor, Corferan said. The very image of you, but aged in ways I couldn't grasp. I never saw the figure as a benevolent one. His psychic presence pained my eyes, and he smelled of bloodshed, domination, and the many worlds already burned to ash in his wake. Even then, I feared we'd wage 6 years of war in error, butchering a true faith to replace it with a false one. In his eyes so like yours, I saw the promise of avarice, the hunger of greed. Everyone else saw nothing but hope. Even you, so I thought. Perhaps I had seen wrong. I trusted your heart, Lorgar, not my own. Lorgar nodded, his contemplative eyes turning away again. Erebus listened in silence, for rare were the moments that any word-bearer received insight into the Primarch's life before the Legion. Of all the Emperor's sons, Corferan said, you are the one that most resembles your father in face and form, but you could never commit acts of cruelty and destruction while wearing a smile. The others, your brothers, can do this. They take after the Emperor in that way, while you do not. Lorgar lowered his gaze. Even Magnus, he asked. A giant stands with the Emperor, a figure robed in the azure of off-world oceans. One eye stares down at the kneeling figure, the other eye is lost, a scarred crater marking its lack. Greetings, Lorgar, said the muscled giant. He is taller even than the god in gold, and his long hair is styled in a scarlet mane like that of a prideful lion. I am Magnus, your brother. Even Magnus. Even Magnus. Corferan seemed reluctant to admit it. His features remained tense. Though I respect him greatly, there is a deep cruelty, born of impatience, threaded through his core. I saw it in his face that day, and each meeting since. Lorgar looked down at his hands, ash-stained with crescent moons of blood beneath the fingernails. We are all our father's sons, he said. You are all facets of the Emperor, Corferan amended. You are aspects pulled from a generic primer. The lion is your father's rationality, his analytical skill, unburdened by conscience. Magnus is his psychic potential and eager mind, unrestrained by patience. Russ is his ferocity, untempted by reason. Even Horus. Go on, Lorgar said, looking up now. What of Horus? The Emperor's ambition, unshaped by humility. Think of all the worlds where our legion waged war alongside the Lunar Wolves. You've seen it as well as I have. Horus hides his arrogance, but it is there, a layer beneath his skin, a shroud around his soul. Pride beats through his body like blood. And Gilliman. Lorgar let his hands rest on his knees again. A smile inched across his features. Gilliman. Corferan's narrow lips molded into a grimace, opposing his Primarch's smirk. Gilliman is your father's echo, heart and soul. If all else went wrong, he would be heir to the Empire. Horus is the brightest star, and you carry your father's face, but Gilliman's heart and soul are cast in the Emperor's image. Lorgar nodded, still smiling to see his advisor's bitterness. My my Macragian brother is as easy to read as an open book, he said. But what of me, Corferin? Surely I bear more than my father's features. What aspect of the imperial avatar have I inherited? Sire, interrupted Erebus, if I may. Lorgar granted permission with a tilt of his head. Ever the statesman, Erebus needed no time to compose himself or his answer. You, you bodied the Emperor's hope. You are his belief in a greater way of life, and his desire to raise humanity to achieve its greatest potential. You devote yourself to these ends, forever selfless, utterly faithful, striving for the betterment of all. Amusement gleamed in the Primarch's eyes. Eyes so like the Emperor's own. Poet, Poetic but indulgent Erebus, what of my failings? If I am not proud like Horus Lupercal, nor impatient like Magnus the Red, what will history say of Lorgar Aurelian? Erebus' solemn facade cracked. A moment of doubt flashed across his features, and he glanced to Corferin. The gesture drew a whispered chuckle from the Primarch. You are both conspirators, he laughed, the sound soft. Do not fear my wrath. I am enjoying this game. It is enlightening. So please enlighten me this last time. Sire, Corferin began, but Lorgar silenced him, reaching to touch his foster father's hand as it rested upon his shoulder. No, you know better than that, Cor. I am not sire. Never to you. No, sorry, I mixed up the voice. No, you are not. You know better than that, Cor. I am not sire. Never to you. History will say that if the 17th Primarch had one weakness, it was his faith in others. His selfless devotion and unbreakable loyalty caused him grief beyond the capacity of a mortal heart to contain. He trusted too easily and too deeply. Lorgar said nothing for several moments, neither agreeing nor disagreeing. His shoulders rose and fell with his quiet breaths. The whip welts inflamed and angry, burning with the faint sheen of sweat dusting his body. Fresher brand marks burned into the flesh of his back were scabbing over. They were scabbing over now. At last he spoke, his eyes narrowed to slits. My father was wrong about me. I am not a general like my brothers, and I refuse that destiny. I will not blindly walk the same paths they already tread. I will never understand tactics and logistics with the effortless ease of Gilliman or the Lion. I will never possess the skill with the blade shown by Fulgrim or the Khan. Am I diminished because I recognize my faults? I do not believe so. He looked down at his hands once more, fine-fingered, barely calloused, the hands of an artist or a poet. His mace, the black iron Crozius Arcanum, was as much a scepter of office as it was a weapon. Is that so wrong? He asked his closest advisers. Is it so wrong of me to speak the ways of a visionary, a seeker, rather than a simple soldier? What is it within my father that renders him so thirsty for blood? Why is destruction the answer to every question he asked? Corferin clutched Lorgar's shoulder tighter. Because, my son, he is gravely flawed. He is an imperfect god. The Primarch met his foster father's eyes in the chamber's gloom, the glance sharp and cold. Do not say what you are about to say. Lorgar, Corferin tried, but the Primarch's glare silenced him. His eyes were sharp with a plea. There's so much TMI bordering detail in the way of the bodies of these fellows are described. Yeah, I guess so. Do not say it, whispered Lorgar. Do not say we tore our home world apart all those years ago in the name of false worship. I cannot live with that. It is one thing for the Emperor to spit on all we have achieved as a legion, But this is different. Can you piss upon upon the covenant and the peaceful cultures we created after 6 years of civil war? Will you name my father a false god? God, speak the truth, Erebus cut in, even if your voice shakes. Lorgar lowered his ash-streaked face into his filthy hands. In that moment, Erebus and Corferin locked eyes. The latter nodded to the former, and the first captain spoke again. Hold on, I need me some water. Also, Rennie, TMI stands for too much information. No problem. It's like, I do not need to know that. That sort of thing. Anyway, I shall continue. You know it's true. You know it is true, Lorgar. I would never lie to you. This is something we must all face. We must atone for this sin. The chaplain stand with you, sire. The Erebus added his voice to Corferen's. The heart of every warrior priest in the Legion beats in rhythm with yours. We stand ready to act upon your word. Lorgar shrugged off their platitudes, as well as his foster father's reassuring hand. The movement split the healing scabs on his shoulder blades, birthing trickle rivers of dark blood weeping down his golden back. You are calling my entire life a lie. I am saying we were wrong, my son. That is all. Corferin dipped his gnarled hand into the bowl of ash by Lorgar's side. Monarchia's dust spilled through his curled fingers, thinking of charred rock and failure. We prayed to the wrong god. We prayed to the wrong god for the right reasons, and Monarchia paid the price for our mistake. But it is never too late to atone. We purged our home world of the old faith, and now you fear as we all fear. Colchis prospered under the old ways and its legends, until we ravaged it in the name of a lie. This is heresy, Lorgar trembled. This is heresy, Lorgar trembled, barely containing his emotion. It is atonement, my son. Corferin shook his head. We've been wrong for so long. We must purge the root of our errors. The source lies on Colchis. Enough! The ash on Lorgar's cheeks was split by trailing tears. Both of you, leave me. Both of you, leave me. Erebus rose to obey, but Corferin rested his hand on the Primarch's shoulder once more. I am disappointed in you, boy. You to be so proud that you cannot face up to failure and make amends. Lorgar clenched his perfect teeth, saliva glistening on his lips. You want to return to Colchis, the cradle of our legion, and apologize for 2 million deaths, 6 years of war, and devoting an entire world to worshipping an unworthy god for almost a century. Yes, Corferin said, because it is the mark of greatness to deal with one's mistakes. We will reforge Colchis, as well as every world we have conquered since we first left our homeworld to join the Great Crusade. And every world we take in the future, said Erebus, must follow a new faith rather than worship the Emperor. There is no new faith. You both preach madness. Do you think my legion kneeling in the dust shames me? Monarchy was nothing compared to the rape of my own homeworld over a lie. The truth cares nothing for what we wish, sire, said Erebus. The truth simply is. You studied the old faith, Corferin said. You believed it yourself as a young seeker before your visions of the Emperor's arrival. You know the way to uncover whether it was a false faith or a pure one. Lorgar wiped drying silver tears from his face. You want us to chase a myth across the stars? You want us to chase a myth across the stars. His eyes flicked between them both, bright and focused. Let us speak plainly now, more than ever before. Let us speak plainly now, more than ever before. You want us to embark on a fool's odyssey through the galaxy, in search of the very gods we spent decades denying. Lorgar laughed, the sound rich with disgust. I am right, aren't I? You want us to undertake the pilgrimage. We are nothing without faith, sire, said Erebus. Humanity. Corferin pressed his palms together in prayer. Must have faith. Nothing unites mankind the way religion inspires unity. No conflict rages as fiercely as a holy war. No warrior kills with the conviction of a crusader. Nothing in life breeds bonds and ambitions greater than the lies and dreams forged by faith. Religion brings hope, unification, law, and purpose, the foundations of civilization itself. Faith is nothing less than the pillar of a sentient species, raising it above the beast, the automaton, and the alien. Erebus drew his gladius into smooth motion, reversing the grip and offering the sword to Lorgar. Sire, if you've truly abandoned your beliefs, then take this blade and end my life now. If you believe there is no truth in the old ways, if you believe mankind will prosper without faith, then carve the two hearts from my chest. I have no wish to live if every principle guiding our legion lies broken at your feet. Lorgar took the blade in a trembling hand, turning it this way and that. He stared at his candlelit reflection, a visage of gold in the silver steel. Erebus, he said, my wisest, noblest son, my faith is wounded, but my beliefs remain. Rise from your knees, all is well. The chaplain obeyed, stoic as ever, resuming his position across from Lorgar. Mankind needs faith, said the Primarch, but faith must be true, or it will lead to devastation, as our brothers in the 13th Legion have so viciously proved. And as we learned ourselves in 6 years of unconscionable war before the Emperor came to Colchis, it is time we learn from our mistakes. It is time I learn from my mistakes. There is one other to whom you can turn. Corferin pressed on, supporting his Primarch's rising shoulder. Supporting his Primarch's rising resolution. A brother with whom you debated the nature of the universe. You have often spoken of those nights, discussing philosophy and faith in the Emperor's own palace. You know of whom I speak. Erebus nodded at the first captain's words. He may hold key to the proof, sire. If the old faith has a core of fact at its heart, he may know where to begin the journey. Magnus, Lorgar said the name in contemplative softness. It made sense. His brother, whose psychic strength and fierce intelligence put all other minds to shame. They'd spoken in the hall of Len, that cold, regal chamber on distant Terra, arguing with smiles and scrolls over the nature of the universe. It will be done. I will meet with Magnus. Corferin smiled at last. Erebus bowed his head as Lorgar continued. And if our suspicions prove correct, we will undertake the pilgrimage. We must know if our Colchisian forefathers spoke the truth when they founded their faith, but we must also move with caution. The Emperor's hounds prowl around our pack, and as wise as my father is, he has shown his blindness to the undying truths of the universe. Lord Corferin now bowed as well, mirroring Erebus. Lorgar, my son, this will be our atonement. We can enlighten humanity with this truth, and wash away the stains of the past. In truth, I have feared this moment for some time. Lorgar licked his cracked lips. They tasted of ash. If that is so, why have you waited to share your worries? Hindsight is a powerful vindicator, my friend, but none of us saw this coming. Not you, not I. Corferin's eyes fairly gleamed. The elder leaned forward, as if the scent of some triumphant hunt filled his senses. I have something I must confess, great lord. A truth that must grace your ears now. Now, for the time has come. Lorgar turned to his foster father with threatening slowness. I do not like your tone, he said. Sire, my Primarch, I tell no lie when I say I have feared this day would come. I took the smallest, most humble measures against his rival, and the words died in his throat, trapped there by his master's hand. Lorgar squeezed the old man's thin, tiny neck, cutting off speech and air with the barest use of strength. Erebus tensed, its eyes moving between the two figures. Lorgar pulled Corferin closer, breathing deeply as if to mock the elder's strangled gasps. No, no more revelations, Corferin. Have we not confessed to enough of our own flaws this night? He loosened his grip enough for Corferin to rasp out the words. David, 7 years ago, the elder whispered. Korosa, 29 years ago. Uvanda, 8 years ago. Compliant worlds, Lorgar hissed into his foster father's face. What? Worlds where you yourself remained behind to begin their education with the imperial truth. Compliant with the imperial truth, but embers of cultures were allowed to remain. What embers? Lorgar growled. Beliefs that match the old faith of home. I could not let potential truths die. Can I not control my own warriors? Lorgar took a shuddering breath, and something clicked quietly inside Corferin's neck. Am I my brother Kurz, struggling to control a legion of liars and deceivers? Lord, I... Corferin's eyes were rolling back into his skull. His tongue was dark now, slapping against his thin lips. Sire, Erebus began. Sire, you'll kill him. Lorgar stared at Erebus for several moments, and the chaplain wasn't sure his liege lord even recognized him. Yes, Lorgar said that. Yes, I could. He opened his fingers, letting Corferin collapse to the chamber floor in a heap of robed limbs. But I will not. My lord. Sorry. The elder heaved in air through blue lips. Much to be learned from those cultures. They're all echoes of ancestral human faith. Like you, I am no butcher. I wish to save the law of the species. It is a time of many revelations, the Primarch sighed. And I am not blind to why you did this, Corferin. Would that I had showed the same forethought and mercy. It was Erebus who replied, You have asked the question yourself, sire. What if there is truth in the cultures we destroy? Corferin saved a handful, but the Great Crusade has annihilated thousands. What if we are repeating the sin on cultures over and over again? And why? Corferin managed a faint smile as he touched his discolored throat. Do so many cultures share the same beliefs as our homeworld? Surely that suggests an underlying truth. The 17th Primarch nodded, the motion slow and sincere. Already, even before this latest confession, his mind was turning to the future, tuning in to the endless possibilities. This was his genetic gift in action, a thinker, a dreamer, where his brothers were warriors and slayers. We have worshipped at the wrong altar for over 100 years, said Corferin, his voice returning. Lorgar sifted through the bowl of ash, clutching another handful and smearing it across his face. Yes, he said, the strength returning to his voice. We have. Erebus, at your command, sire. Take my words to the chaplains. Tell them all of what transpired in the days I remained sequestered here. They deserve to know their Primarch's heart, and when you return for further counsel tomorrow, please bring me parchment and a pen. I have much to write. It will take days, weeks, but it must be written, and I will not leave my isolation until it is done. You, both of you, will help me compose this great work. What work, sire? Lorgar smiled, and never had he looked so much like his father. The new word. Chapter end. Alright. So, what do you guys think of that one? So, what do you think of how the story is yeah, evolving? Honestly, I can't say who is the good or bad guy, to be honest. Yeah, I agree, because and that's talking about, I'm not referring to 40k in general. Everyone sucks. It's there's yeah, that's the great thing about 40k. Yeah, there's no, yeah, everyone sucks. Nobody is a good guy in any sort of sense. Like like everyone's just trying to survive, find themselves, and it's literally like survival of the fittest, I think. At first I was rooting for Lorgar, but then I don't know. It was different. Yeah, there is something about it. I won't get into spoilers, but Lorgar is a pretty interesting character in the Horus Heresy. Actually, given the nature of this book that I'm reading from being a gift from Stino, the Word Bearers actually ended up becoming my favorite legion. Oh, now that you mention it, it does kind of feel like Shay Cormac from Assassin's Creed Rogue. I do see what you're saying. I do see what you're saying. And yes, I do agree with I do also understand what you're saying with the ones remotely being close to being good are the Tau, but more specifically would be the far side enclaves, I think. But I don't know, I don't know enough of the Tau to make an accurate assessment on that matter. Actually, speaking of the Tau, I have uh downloaded some Tau books from from some sites. I don't know if I'll be including this in the recording, but I probably will anyway. But I will say though that I would, if given the chance, I would recommend buying these books for yourself so you can read it in your own time, and also to support the writers of this work, because you know gotta get that bread. And also it's just I think it's the right thing. It's the right thing to do within your own abilities, that that you should support the authors of these works in however way you can, either by spreading the word or buying the books yourself. But there's a lot of theories going on that he's slowly getting corrupted by chaos. The commander Farsight's getting corrupted by chaos. Yeah, I have heard that, and I think in the recent Arcs of Omen lore that was shown a little bit. It would be interesting to see Commander Farsight, like, maybe well and truly fall to chaos, especially since his personal guard, I think, is known as the Eight, and the eight being a significant number because eight is the amount of points on the Star of Chaos. So Yeah, there's some subtle influences there, I imagine. And also, I will just look up the Star of Chaos right now. And Star of Chaos. Yeah, it would fit in with the whole everyone sucks thing. Oh, hold on. I looked up Star of Chaos and I apparently it's like there seems to be an action. It seems to be based in reality. Actually, hold on. Yeah, and I actually will be including this recording of the story in the later Boltgun stream. But here, listen to this. The symbol of chaos originates from Michael Moorcock's Eternal Champion stories and its dichotomy of law and chaos. In them, the symbol of chaos comprises 8 arrows in a radial pattern. In contrast, the symbol of law is a single upright arrow. It is also called the Arms of Chaos, the Arrows of Chaos, the Chaos Star, the Chaos Cross, the Star of Discord, the Chaos Sphere, the symbol of 8, or the Octaris. The symbol has been adopted in role playing games such as Warhammer and Dungeons and Dragons, as well as modern occult traditions where it represents chaos magic and also as a part of punk rock subculture and branches of modern anarchism. Huh. I seriously did not know that. That's actually pretty cool. I thought the Star of Chaos was just, a 40k thing. Or, not really a 40k thing, but a Warhammer thing. And also, here is the Star of Chaos as well. That's what it looks like. I think I'll include this in the recording because it won't make much sense if I don't. But anyway. Also, wait, really? The Tao actually use mind control snakes? I thought it was just pheromones. Ah, okay. Then. Memory's kind of hazy. That's fine. Oh, interesting. High-ranking human officer converted to Tao ideology. And most people reading it were a bit sussed out because their Tao watchdog was one of those kinds of alien. Huh, interesting. I'll definitely have to read some Tao books one of these days. Oh, to be honest, I'm still kind of more into Space Marines at the moment, but yeah, it'll be on my radar. For now though, shall we get on with Boltgun? All right, good. Here we wish I didn't use that plasma gun. I'm gonna have to load an earlier level. I cannot pass this without the fucking plasma gun. I'm gonna try and keep quiet. I'm reading got my throat a bit tired. Fine, hopefully. Hey, Slayer, you're here. Glad you could make it, man. Yeah, welcome to the purging indeed. I almost said impurging. time without spawning new horrors when they die by explosion. Or rather, if I don't kill them by simply throwing a grenade, it doesn't count. Let me try it. Yeah. Oh, sorry. They don't split. That's good to know. Yeah, it's a good thing to not fall down. Advice could be heeded in real life as well. Double kill, nice. Let's keep going. Nice health and armor. Grenade. Squaring me up for a good fight, aren't they? I think they are. I genuinely think they are. I didn't realize there was a cultist there. I thought it was just a bloodstain. I mean, he is now, but you know what I mean. I have ammo specifically tailored to kill you. If you really think it was an advantage. Imagine the Black Templars board in a struggle for alien. Yeah, that would be that would be a sight to behold. Yeah, that's my solution for defeating the blue horrors now. Just charge them. Nah, you didn't miss much really. There's so much shit. Always a good solution. Okay, now that we have the plasma rifle, we should be able to actually make it in the rest. Hey, the key. Purple building. That's where it is. dare you laugh at me? Why did they go back? Why did they circle around? Let's get out of here. Let's just see a little. Let's see the ass crack on that thing. Looked like it for a second. Oh shit, seriously? Okay, I still have my plasma gun. Oh man, I'm really low on health. I didn't know this. I just get so caught up in the gameplay and the bloodshed and carnage. I'm gonna try and finish this, but if I die again, I'm gonna end it here. I got the gear I wanted, so I'm satisfied. Yes, health. Great. There's a plasma gun right here. Did I seriously not notice? This is the arena that I kept dying in. There's a plasma gun right there. That one terribly. I missed all of those shots just now. I gotta reduce the graphics again. This is just too high, man. V-Sync was... Oh, that's so much better. I'll save my game right now. Man, that's the farthest I've actually gone. I missed the chainsaw. I actually missed the chainsaw hit. Okay, this is mainly an arena, but I need to find a key. Ah, the key. Oh fuck, that surprised me. I was just about to say, please no traps, and then that fucking thing. Yeah, you know what? This looks like another arena. I really do not want to do any more today. I had enough. I had enough with reading. I had enough with this. It was nice, but I'm tired, man. Hope everyone enjoyed watching, and have a good evening.